Hi, good morning, everybody. I get a body of questions that come in from different students and across for different projects that students are working on when they're trying to describe IFOT. And so I'm going to answer some of these questions in a video that might be helpful to people trying to study about IFOT. The first question I have here is, when did you start IFOT? Indigenous Focusing Oriented Therapy, which previously was called Aboriginal Focusing Oriented Therapy. I started to look at focusing oriented therapy in the late 70s and found that Eugene Genlin's research was really helpful, and also some of his terminologies were very helpful to help people find a practical way of working with themselves, with their bodies, and with clients. I liked his approach. What was really missing for me was a practical genocide-informed trauma-based tool for working with complex trauma. And Jean's research was excellent, but I felt it was really missing the boat on complex trauma and genocide-informed practices that could be helpful to Indigenous communities in particular. Um, and for those that know me, our family was part of the 60 Scoop. I'm the daughter of a pedophile, so there was uh, a lot of complex trauma that I was personally dealing with, that my family was dealing with, that the communities were dealing with, and I felt we needed a better way of addressing that. And so in the late 70s, I got to connect with Jean through a friend of mine, through Dr. Harvey Armstrong, a psychiatrist, and Mary Armstrong, his partner, and developed a closeness with Jean and his work. Not necessarily with the focusing community, because I really couldn't attach to that. It felt very foreign to me, and it didn't meet the genocide informed practices that I needed for both personal, family, and communities. So I appropriated Jean's work with his permission. I appropriated his terminologies in order to bring an Indigenous sensibility to some of those terminologies and those practices that could be broadened and actually um, made made practical for Indigenous communities who were dealing with genocide. And so, where did you get it from? Yeah, I got it from Jean. I spent a lot of time at Jean's house, and all of the steps that I took, I made sure, as I was appropriating what he was creating there, I made sure that I had, his blessings. And, you would think that would be really hard, but it wasn't. He was such a gracious human being, Jean, such a beautiful elder. He was so happy with the work I was doing. He celebrated it, and he promoted it, and it gave me all the permission in the world to change it up, considerably, to meet an Indigenous philosophy where all my relations was at the fundamental core of it, and where the collective and land-based practices would be the foundation of it. So the Gene's work was attached, but the fundamental platform of IFOT was Indigenous philosophies. All my relations. You can't get through hell unless you're interconnected, and you can't get through genocide without your ancestors. So we needed something that was intergenerational and collective and land-based, all my relations based, where everything was alive and helpful. So that's how IFOT was created, with the permission of Gene to appropriate his stuff, and with the fundamental of Indigenous knowledge and experiential knowledge at its very platform, at its very core. What was the hardest part? The hardest part, that's a really good question. The hardest part of bringing IFOT into the nations was building the relationships within the communities. And I say that not lightly because it took like 40, 50 years to bring IFOT into all the community, to many communities, and also to build the relationships, uh, you know, um, uh, that were where people could resonate with an Aboriginal psychotherapy that could be helpful in their communities. There had been a lot of atrocity, and building relationships takes time and takes a lot of love and a lot of um, a lot of listening and how important it was that I wasn't bringing something to put on their territory. I was bringing something to help them bring out what was on their territories, and that was critical to building that scaffolding, building that bridge between IFOT and the communities, that you do not put something on someone's territory. You really understand that they are the genocide informed experts on this subject of complex trauma. It's their ancestors that know the way home. So to build a, a way of relating that was so deeply respectful and that had such that honored the knowledge, the intergenerational experiential knowledge that was sitting right on whatever territory you happened to be a visitor on. And to just elegantly do that, so that you could be loved and that they could be loved, and that then we can heal, right? So it was, I think, building the relationships. It brings me to tears thinking about all the beautiful communities that I've sat with and that have allowed me to sit with them, um, and all the knowledge and the wisdom that sits within those territories had really touched my life. And going I'm going on 70, and in a year and a bit I'll be 70 years old. It was a blessing and very, very hard work. Sometimes you were you know um, sent on your way. So it took a long time. Um, that was the hardest part. I wouldn't mind saying what the easiest part was. I think the easiest part was um, connecting Gene's work with Indigenous psychotherapy, because he was such a blessing. And also the other part that was so hard but easy was the later part of IFOT, which is building the collective. Um, just the right peoples came forward to to take over the collective, because I am not IFOT. IFOT will continue, right? And it needs to be in gracious hands, and hands of people who will be sure it doesn't get appropriated and watered down, and that all my relations and the land-based knowledge and the experiential knowing and the respect for the nations, that all that sits tenderly and solidly at its core. And so the collective that now carries the communities and the collectives that now carry IFOT forward, um, uh, that took 40, 50 years to build, is so beautiful. And people really are healing much more quickly because they are in an all my relations uh, process, that is connected through intergenerational time, that is fed by experiential knowledge. So it's really, really beautiful. I thought it's very beautiful, and it doesn't sit in my hands anymore. It's in our hands. It's very collective. Its ownership is collective. We own IFOT. It didn't sit well in universities uh, for very long, because it's so big. It's so big. It sat with JIBC for a while, but it's just so big. It outgrows universities because it's a collective, and it's a community based um, movement in some ways. Some people call it a movement towards health. that is all my relations. And so it can't really fit in a tight curriculum, and it can't fit in a, it's that doesn't mean you can't study it and you can't research it. It just means that it's bigger than me. It's bigger than any one being. It's very, very broad. How would I define a felt sense? I like this question. What is a felt sense? How do I define it? And that is ever changing because IFOT is alive. So it's ever growing. So it shifts with time. And today, a felt sense for me. Let's see, how would I define it? I would define it as a relationship. A felt sense has some physiology. So it has some body. It has some body experiencing attached to it. It maybe has some emotions attached to it as well. So it's a living kind of bodily uh, physiology, and it's also, it can be a little emotional too, but it's always tied to relationship. It's an all my relations experiencing of a something. So whatever relationship you're in, it will always have a felt sense to it. And that felt sense is a bodily experiencing. And that bodily experiencing is not just you. That bodily experiencing is a shared kind of experiencing. A felt sense is more than you. It's collective, it's intergenerational, it's land based, and it's all my relations. Maybe a good way to explain a felt sense for me today, and just how all my relations it really is. And how it is a relationship. A felt sense is a relationship with a something. Uh, One of the atrocities that happened in my life was I was repeatedly raped in a basement. And so the scene was always the same. Somebody would come down the stairs, and it would be a horrific event. And I would leave my body. I would leave my body, my spirit, myself, and I would move into this concrete wall. You can even see a little hole in the wall. I'd move into that wall, and the wall would hold me while this awful thing was happening. And so I felt the felt sense I had, this movement away, and this not really frozen but kind of bodily time out, holding of the breath, this kind of uh, kind of stuck yet not stuck felt sense thing in the wall. The wall had it too. The wall had it with me and was holding me with it. So the felt sense was both the inanimate wall, which was animate from an Indigenous perspective. And what is a concrete wall? It's a grandfather. It's made of sand. It's made of water. It's made of stone. That grandfather wall there would hold me, suspend me, embrace me, be with me. And you could even sense the wall having that felt sense too, and you could feel the love and connection. And that was the most important part, because that's maybe why I didn't die, why I didn't succeed in suicide. It may be why I am still here, is that connection with that wall. And so a felt sense, while it could be shared with a person, it could be shared with an ancestor. You might be sharing that with somebody. I might even be holding a felt sense for someone else. But it's more than just that. It's all my relations. It's land based, and land is everywhere, whether it's the floorboards you're sitting on right now, or the desk that's holding me up, or this chair that has sat with me through years and years, this chair that has sat listening to survivors of trauma, um, incredible stories. This chair holds that story too. We are in relationship with our felt senses, and our felt senses are bigger than just our own little beings. So that's what a felt sense is for me today, and I know that I'll have a different way of explaining it tomorrow. So, who runs IFOT? Oh my goodness, who runs IFOT? Well, it's the communities, I think, run IFOT, and we are their they're teachers. So, uh, and we are a collective of IFOT instructors. Um, uh, all the instructors at IFOT are exceptional peoples who have worked in genocide for and often been through genocide for 20, 30 years. We're all kind of getting older now, and we've all done exceptional work. So we've all been working hard in the field of complex trauma. So we are highly experienced instructors. We're all Indigenous or Black. From in New York, our instructors are from the Latino, Black, and even Asian groups. So we're all marginalized or have been through extreme trauma, and carry with us intergenerational wisdom of having lived that. So we're all experts, like the land-based experts, really awesome experts. But the communities are really the ones who own IFOT. They tell us when we're going to be working. They contract with us. They line up because there's a 2-year waiting list often for an IFOT program. um, and it's the people themselves that own IFOT. We just do what they tell us, for as long as they need us or as long as they want us. Including, if we run an IFOT program in a community as a collective, the community decides if the college is going to be attached and if there's going to be credits there or not. We kind of just show up for whatever the need is, right, in the communities that we serve. And we serve many, many, many communities in North America. And we also have little feeder programs like Indigenous Tools for Living that help people along while they're waiting for a full IFOT program. But I do believe we're owned by the territories, and that we serve the territories. And that again is a very important distinction, because it again once more talks about those fundamental foundations of what does it mean to be Indigenous led, to be an All My Relations organization. I think I'm going to stop there for now. And if I get another set of questions over time, I'll try to answer those as well. Love you all for now. Don't know if this is helpful or if you even want this, but sometimes it's hard for people to get a hold of me, and they have these questions, and these seem to be the current questions that seem to be coming in. If I could just answer them in a video, I don't have to talk to, then it could be shared. You can share this information, use it in your presentations or whatever you want to do. It belongs to you now. Take good care. Love you all. Be safe out there. Be safe and sound. Take care of your communities. Mwah. Bye for now.